Good evening, everyone. Welcome to On the Throttle with Jacqui and Josh. Jacqui is not hiding in a closet as it may appear here. She is actually on a much-deserved vacation this week, so we're going to let her relax. I've still got a couple of great stories for you. We are going to get on the GASGAS, and then we are obviously going to end up in the dirt somehow. So stay tuned. After these messages, we'll get right into those.
Your dealership's customers expect the best. Offer them the best with MOGO's GPS tracking services. Your buyers will love real-time location tracking, historic travel data, battery level alerts, and so much more. Offer your customers MOGO. They won't say no.
Hey everyone, welcome back, and let's just dive right into it here. And the big news this week has been obviously GASGAS going into MotoGP. I was really excited about this when I read this and saw this, but I mean, this is kind of one of these things out of left field when you first look at it, but as you dive in, you're like, it makes more sense. So this was made possible, obviously, this year when Suzuki said, hey, end of 2022, we're out. We are no longer doing MotoGP, so GASGAS has stepped in. The racer that they have picked starting out with is Paul Espargaro. Now, I'm actually pretty pumped about this because I think in some cases is underrated, but the big thing is he has a lot of experience with a lot of teams. So him to help in the development of this and to help push this forward, I think is a great way for them to go. I think it's going to do a good job of giving them building for the future rather than pulling some unknown rider up or out or anything like that. Now, GASGAS has, currently even a Moto 3 team. They've had Moto 2 teams in the past. So this will be, and this is where some of these connections come in. So will be the Tech 3 team that used to be KTM. Now, as we look here, I remember days in school where, and this may come as a surprise to many of you, but I may have copied my neighbor's homework once or twice. And when you look at the relationship between GASGAS and KTM, the Pierre Air company ownership for both of them, like I said, if you think I may have copied some homework a few times, I believe that's kind of what's going on here. That's that dive in that I was mentioning in terms of, hey, it makes sense for GASGAS to do this. GASGAS started very kind of similarly as KTM in terms of off-road, starting to build some road stuff, starting to build that way. Obviously, they share, I don't even want to call it platform sharing. In a lot of cases, it's the same bike with different color plastics to it. To me, it's about that brand awareness. It's about that ability to get into other spots. I'm actually pretty excited for it. What are your thoughts? I mean, Jackie's not here to argue with me on this one or razz me about this. So I want to hear your comments about this. What do you see happening for KTM out of this? What's the good for GASGAS out of this? I see it as a net gain, but after my next story here, we're going to tie all these in together. And there's an interesting bit to this. So stay tuned to the end. I've really got a big question here for you at the end. So, like I said, I'm excited for GASGAS to be in this. Once again, it's going to be great to have another couple of those bikes on the grid. Let's see what happens this year. So the next story that I kind of want to dive into is Skyler Howe wins Vegas to Reno. So this is one of those off-road races that, you guys know I enjoy seeing these. I enjoy following these. He used basically a Dakar bike for it. So that became a pretty good advantage. The Vegas to Reno race is 500 miles from, take a guess, Vegas to Reno. This year, though, the weather's been, let's say, different, or shall we call it special. Thanks to rains, there was, all sorts of craziness. There was dry creek beds. There was even dry lakes that had water. There were other spots that obviously typically have water that did not. So, I mean, just all sorts of craziness with it. He said dealing with the mud, the silt, some ginormous rocks that, I mean, they had to adapt to the course kind of at the last minute to make sure they could get it to run. Pretty much everything else they had to work with. This was an interesting race. Now here he is on the Husqvarna FR450 rally bike. And what's so interesting is he won this race as a solo rider against most of the other teams had 2 or more riders. On top of that, he had to start from the back because there is, I believe it's a 3-mile qualifying loop that they did on Friday. And like me, he chucked it at the scenery. So he actually had to start at the very back. If you've never done off-road racing or even just ridden on gravel roads, being at the back sucks, to put it politely. You are inhaling everyone's dust, and that obviously makes visibility difficult, which makes going fast difficult. So for him to win this race with that on top of it too, to me, is another feat in itself. Now, one of the interesting things with this being a Dakar type bike, obviously fuel capacity on these bikes is huge. So, I mean, there's always added tanks, there's added places for fuel. He said one of the biggest advantages that he had was being able to bypass a number of fuel stops where other teams are stopping to switch out riders, top off the fuel. He was able to just keep on trucking. Now, those of you that also ride off-road like I do, you realize an extra gallon or 2 of fuel in there makes a world of difference in how the bike handles and what you have to do and keeping it up. And to me, that feat in itself, it's judging that trade-off. So obviously, they did really well in figuring out where that kind of optimum point is and what fuel stops to go with. So to me, Skyler Howe, congratulations on that win. That's a big one. This is considered the longest single-day race in the U.S. Like I said, it's almost 500 miles. That is a lot of saddle time. In fact, it is 6 hours, 33 minutes, and 30 seconds of saddle time. Second place was 6 hours and 37 minutes. So that's, I mean, 4 minutes difference in a 500-mile race is tight racing, if you ask me. So how does this tie together in with my other article that I talked about here earlier? Well, when you look at the top numbers on this, this was a Husqvarna, Beta, KTM, and you had to get down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th place before you found a Honda. It got me thinking. So I went back and I looked at MotoGP status. Out of 33 podiums, Japanese bikes have only captured 9 of them. Now, 3 of those were wins by Quartararo. It's interesting to me to see that this paradigm shift to the European manufacturers. So what does that mean? Does it mean that the Japanese manufacturers are no longer thinking, hey, race on Sunday, sell on Monday? Are they making a shift towards electrics? I haven't the foggiest idea. I would love to hear your opinions about it, though, because there's obviously a shift, and it's over the past year or 2, but these types of specs, to me, really hammer that home. Where do you think this shift is going? What do you think we're seeing? I mean, are they going with the smaller, lighter bikes, or do people not like racing as much anymore? I mean, I know that's definitely not the case for me. I'd love to hear your opinion. All that being said, we're going to be back next week. I know Jacqui's going to be sitting. Which side is it? It's over. Nope, it's over there. Jacqui's going to be sitting over there for me next week. We are going to have that same banter. We are going to have a ton of fun. Thanks for tuning in again this week. We will see you soon.